Hi, guys, and welcome back to another live from Between the Ropes TV. It's just me tonight, guys. Yas is away long term, and Josh has had a bit of a family emergency, so he's had to attend to that. But never mind, we've got plenty of things to run through tonight. We've had a great weekend of boxing, really great weekend. We've had Manuel Navarrete defend, go for the vacant WBO super featherweight title against Liam Wilson from Australia. We've had Amanda Serrano in an undisputed clash. Also, we've had Alicia Bumgarner as well in another undisputed clash. Then we've had the announcement from the Zone, 7 shows. So it's exciting times. So we've got a real lot to talk for tonight. So evening, Davey. Thanks very much for joining the channel, joining the show. Great to hear from you, guys. I just want to kind of reflect on the performance from Bumgarner, Alicia Bumgarner. A great performance. Considering how controversial her win was against Michaela Mayer, it was an emphatic win, I thought, against Elhem Machaled from France. I thought Bumgarner was comfortable throughout the fight. She never looked in any trouble. There was a couple of points where I think she tried too hard to get her opponent out of there. She got hit a few more times than she expected, and I think she gassed out. I think she took her foot off the pedal. I think she just wanted to take that particular rounds off, and I ended up giving opponent 2 rounds, round 2 and round 9. I thought they were big rounds for her. I thought Machaled couldn't miss with a right hand, but I think she was capitalizing on a very tired Alicia Bumgarner in those rounds. But those rounds that Bumgarner won, she was dominant in, particularly round 3. Round 7, there was some big rounds from Bumgarner. What I liked from her is how explosive she is. She's her feet are never stationary for too long. She uses a lot of good angles. She's very explosive, very quick, very different type of puncher to Savannah Marshall, who just plants her feet, plows forward. Very basic, very upright. There's all sorts of different skills and techniques with Alicia Bumgarner, which makes it so exciting. Hi, Davey, you all right, pal? Davey says, I've missed a lot of boxing over the week since last on. Should be back on track. Sorry, I'll get my words out. Should be back on track this weekend. Don't worry about it, pal. There's been plenty this weekend. I've just mentioned we've had 3 big fights. We've had Emmanuel Navarrete against Liam Wilson from Australia. We've had Amanda Serrano versus Cruz, and I've just been talking about Alicia Bumgarner against Machaled. So that was a good fight. Quite one-sided. It wasn't as competitive as what Erica Cruz and Amanda Serrano was, but it was still a good fight. And there's plenty more, as you know, Davey, to come in the next couple of weeks. The Zone have announced their schedule. So yeah, there's lots to look forward to. Davey adds another comment. You just hosting yourself tonight, Ray Bud? Hope the boys are good. Yeah, as I was saying at the top of the show, Yaz is he's got some long-term commitments at the minute. In Josh has had an emergency, so it's just me tonight for a short while. But it's enough to get us through the evening, just to talk about the weekend's events, but also about the upcoming DAZN cards as well. There's a lot of controversy I'm hearing on all the socials. People are shocked that the DAZN subscriptions are going up from $7.99 to potentially $19.99 per month. Wow, that's another thing that we have to touch upon. Davey comes in with another comment. I do think Serrano beats Taylor, though, mate. Well, you know what it is, Davey? You know as well from our chats, I tipped Serrano to beat Taylor last time, and she nearly did it. She nearly did it. I don't know if you guys can remember that fifth round. It was heart in your mouth stuff if you're a Katie Taylor fan. I generally thought, okay, that's it. Katie Taylor's got a granite chin, and she's hard as nails. But I think the key thing for me is going to be the weight, because as good as and as great as Amanda Serrano is, look at the belts that she's won in the weight divisions that she's won. It's unprecedented in female boxing. We talk about how good Clarissa Shields is, skill-wise, you can't compare to Clarissa Shields. But in terms of accomplishments, Amanda Serrano's right up there, and Amanda Serrano's quality. She really is. My issue is I think she's bitten off a bit more than she can chew simply because of the weight. When you look at Amanda Serrano, in my opinion, she's a featherweight. That for me is her best weight. That's where her last few fights have been. That's where I see her. She's a featherweight. Katie Taylor's a big, strong, lightweight. You know, that's an extra £10. And that's just on the day before the weigh-in. You're talking about on fight night. I don't know how heavy Katie Taylor can weigh. Possibly about welterweight. And you've got to remember, Katie Taylor, although she's a fading force, she's big, she's strong, she's relentless. She's not as quick as what she used to be, but she's still physically strong. You know, the way she hung in there fifth round, and she gave it back to Amanda Serrano in the subsequent rounds after that. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. If anyone's going to beat Katie Taylor, you would think it's going to be Serrano. But if anything's going to hinder Serrano, it would be the weight. I just think that Katie Taylor's aggressiveness and physical strength could potentially carry her over. So it's an interesting one, Davey. You know, you tell us, how do you think she wins that fight? You know, do you think she stops Katie Taylor? Do you think she does it on points, unanimous, split decision? To be interesting. Robbery from the zone. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. You know, it is pricey. Look, Dave, you know, for everyone out there, I don't mind paying say £15 or whatever, if we're getting the quality on the cards. When Eddie Hearn left Sky, that's what he promised British boxing fans. He promised more shows in the UK. He promised more signings. He promised more quality shows. Sorry. He promised more 50-50s, but we're not getting that. Guys, check out my post I put on Facebook, where I've compared the schedule for this time last year against this one this year, for the first quarter. In my opinion, it was much better last year, and we're paying more for this year. So I'm hoping we get more signings in the summer, or we get some more UK shows. I mean, yeah, fair enough. He's got 7. He's got a show in Liverpool, show in Newcastle, but we need more, guys. We need more. Yes, Anthony Joshua's fight against Jermaine Franklin's been announced. Jermaine Franklin, friend of the show, that's been announced for the 1st of April. But yes, it's not on pay-per-view, but we want to see more. We want to see more. We want to see more. We want to see more quality shows, more 50-50 bouts. We want to see a bit of a balance between next gen and contenders for world titles. And I think that's the biggest problem for Eddie Hearn. He's got plenty of potential. He's got a couple of ready-made stars, although they're not as active as what we would like them to be. But what he's lacking is those contenders for titles in the men's category. Female boxing, he's all right. He's all right, female boxing. But on the men's side, that's what he's lacking. And for me, that's important for your core main events, your chief supports, because there's a massive gap between, you know, your headliner, which is usually very good, and then you're looking at prospects. And I've always said to Josh, I think he's getting around to the idea that there isn't that much between a Frank Warren show and an Eddie Hearn show in terms of, don't get me wrong, in terms of the production and, you know, the actual talent. You know, Hearn's ahead. But in terms of not having that brilliant chief support, it's almost neck and neck. Not in terms of talent. There's a big difference in terms of the talented stables. Clearly, Matchroom have got a bigger talented stable as comparison to Queensbury, but they both have similar gaps within their roster and in terms of having a chief support. So if we're paying more and we get that, fair enough. But where Davey's got a very good point is it's how much are we paying? You know, it's a massive jump from £7.99 to £19.99 potentially for some people. I mean, that's more than twice the price. So you could argue, are we getting twice the product? Don't get me wrong. Yeah, okay. Things are going up, particularly after COVID. But I think they've got a long way to go, Matchroom. And I can see this time next year, a lot of people would have left their subscription for the Zone. So we need to keep an eye on that one. Davey says, my internet on phone buffered there, mate. Yeah, I remember you saying Serrano would win last time. Yeah, I did, and I was wrong. You know how we do it on this channel. You know how I do. If I'm wrong, I hold my hands up. I take it on the chin. I genuinely thought Serrano would win. I thought she'd be too relentless, too fast. Her feet would be too swift in and out of range, and she would leave Katie Taylor kind of hitting a thin air a bit, plodding forward, getting caught. I just thought Katie Taylor slowing down a bit more. But Katie Taylor proved that she's got a lot left. And you've got to take your hat off, literally, to Katie Taylor. It was a very good performance. Davey says, I think Katie has been in tough fights recently, as if she's past her best. I see Serrano winning TKO. I think it will take the ref to stop it. Wow. Katie won't back down and has great heart. Yeah, fair enough. You know, I'm here for that. I'm here for that. You know, hopefully Amanda Serrano can handle the extra weight better than she did last time. She's got plenty of time to prepare. She's got plenty of time to prepare. It's 3 months away. She'll learn from her mistakes last time. So it's a case of, is it going to be repeat or revenge? So it's a great matchup. But I think the fascinating point for me, I don't know whether you agree, Dave, or you guys in the chat agree. It's back in Ireland. It's in Ireland. You need to be back there for Katie Taylor. She's had a tremendous professional career and a wonderful amateur career, be fighting all over the road. And if anyone deserves a homecoming, a proper homecoming, not just a homecoming against a journey woman, just to put some bums on seats. No, a homecoming in a proper tasty fight. It's got to be Katie Taylor. It's got to be Katie Taylor, and she deserves this. I said she should have retired after the Serrano win, not just because of, I thought, she took a lot of damage in that fight. No, but it was a historic occasion, headlining Madison Square Garden. This is going to be a historic occasion in terms of being back in Ireland. I imagine it'll be sold out. It's a shame it couldn't be at Croke Park. But for what it's worth, I would love Katie Taylor just to go out on a high and get that win against Amanda Serrano for a second time. But I think it's going to be very, very difficult. And I kind of agree with what Davey's saying. Davey again says Ben Shalom said he's trying to get more non-pay-per-view fights for the fans. Well, I had Ben Shalom being my promoter of the year last year. Excuse me, and that's just my opinion. I thought he did quite well with the budget that he had. But I am aware that there's a card next weekend, which Anna Mazim is headlining. A boxer show that's quite stacked by boxers' own accounts. However, what I will say is, there's a difference between getting non-pay-per-view fights, but also making sure they're competitive and they're intriguing, not just for fight fans like ourselves. Because let's be honest, guys, the vast majority of boxing that's on telly we're going to watch because we're boxing nuts. However, we do want to see competitive fights. We do want to see fights that make the juices flowing. Let's be honest about it. And so if that means he's going to step up the competition for his fighters, and fair enough, because what my criticism, Davey, and for you guys in the chat is how he's building Fraser Clark. I know it's difficult at heavyweight because you don't have those journeymen that you used to have years ago. You used to have people like you can put people up against like a Michael Sprott, those kind of guys. You don't have that anymore. You don't have people that'll test you, taking those rounds, taking a distance. Ask questions like what a Michael Sprott would do in the last stages of his career. You're not having that. So it's a difficult job building up a heavyweight. But having said that, most of the people, all the opponents Fraser Clark has been in with, he's walked all over them. I think his first opponent or his second opponent, they pull some guy out of the crowd at the weigh-in. You can't kind of do that and kid the fans. I mean, at the end of the day, DAZN you're paying nearly £20 a month for potentially. Some people are paying, upwards of 40, 50, maybe £100 for Sky as a package, including Sky Sports. So for me, that's a given. Although it's a good point, that's a given. Ben Shalom's got to really sit down and think about how he puts on his shows. And there's whispers, I don't know whether you guys saw it on social media a couple of weeks back, he was trying to entice Billy Joe Saunders back and get an agreement with Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, entertainment value, that would be terrific. Is that the guy he needs? I'm not too sure. But that was the avenue he was going down a couple of weeks ago. We'll have to see how that one pans out. Ian and Joe, my mate, how are you doing? I'm doing pretty well. I hope you're doing good as well, and the family. Thanks for joining us this evening. And Davey comes back and says what he was meaning is big fights that don't have pay-per-view. He said he's under pressure to get the fight pay-per-view, and that he wants to give non-pay-per-view. Kind of doesn't make sense in a business sense, though. It doesn't, and that's the problem. Pay-per-view makes sense because these things are a business. I understand that. And I'm just being, a tight boxing fan. I want the best fights on for next to nothing. But if I need to pay for these fights, fair play. But I don't mind paying for a good competitive fight and a good card. What I do mind paying for is, for example, if you look at the Anthony Yarboturviev card, although the main event was a wonderful scrap, it was terrific. The card was awful. The card was awful. Let's be honest, guys, it was awful. Call me out if you think I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section. More than happy to have that discussion. But I thought the card was shocking. It was awful. And I don't want to be paying for stuff like that. And everyone was saying, it wasn't on pay-per-view, Ray, it wasn't on pay-per-view. But that shouldn't have been on pay-per-view, even in people's minds to be on pay-per-view. There was nothing about it that was pay-per-view. Yes, it was Buterviev, and he's got 3 and 4 belts at light heavy, but that was never a pay-per-view event, and it was never a pay-per-view card, and that's my thing. Yes, that's on Queensbury, but that's my point. Ben Shalom, if he's on about if he needs to put on a quality card and it's going to be pay-per-view, then fair enough. Like Smith Eubank, for me, I always argued that wasn't a pay-per-view main event, but the card was a very good card. So it's got to be a balance. If he's saying he's under pressure, but he wants to put on non-pay-per-view cards, but he wants to put on similar sort of rubbish that Frank Warren put on for Jordan Buterviev, then we've got a problem on our hands. And the argument goes back to the emergence of this misfit series of boxing. You're getting fans there queuing from 4 p.m. in the afternoon, 5 p.m. in the afternoon when the doors open. So that's what our next competition is, really. So it's about making sure to get the fans coming in through the doors, getting them paying the money so the actual boxers get the revenue in their pockets. We need to be putting in better caliber of fights. We need to be working with each other. I know Ben Shalem said something about promoters now need to work with each other. You would think after COVID, that's one of the things that they'll be wanting to do. See some instances where they're not doing so, but that's one of the big things that's got to happen from now. Yes, and Dave's just saying hello there to Joe. Yeah, that's a very, very good point there, Davey. Do you think Eubank will take this rematch? I think he will. I think he will. I think he will. I think he was already coming out with excuses, wasn't he? Saying it was an elbow. I know our good friend Imran, friend of the show, kind of suggests an elbow landed cleanly on Eubank, and that potentially led to him being off balance, and led to Liam Smith having the upper hand in the exchanges to land his cleaner shots to drop Eubank. I completely disagree. An elbow may have landed by mistake; it wasn't intentional. If an elbow landed on him at all, um, I think when you look at it, and this is the reason why I went for Liam Smith, is technically and fundamentally he is a much better boxer than Chris Eubank Jr. I think the difficulty I had was Liam Smith was coming up in weight. Chris Eubank Jr. throws a lot of punches. The old Chris Eubank Jr. did, and I was under the impression that, well, if the old Chris Eubank Jr. shows up, the one that throws a lot of punches, then yes, of course, Liam Smith would be in trouble. I mean, we saw Anthony Fowler give Liam Smith trouble, and Anthony Fowler doesn't throw as many punches per round as what Chris Eubank Jr. does, but he's just as accurate. I would say Fowler hits harder, and there was enough about him to push Liam back. And Liam isn't a massive puncher either. He's not a massive puncher. But what Liam Smith is very intelligent and very, very good on the inside. So I think Chris Eubank Jr. will take it because he won a right or wrong. He's got pride. He's got ego. We all know he has. And he's coming out with a lot of excuses. And I think he'll want the rematch. Whether it happens or not, I'm not too sure. Yes, you could argue it could do because it's contractually obliged, but but I don't know. I think Liam Smith may make it difficult. I heard him say he wants it on his terms. Yeah. So whether that fight takes place, I don't know. Liam Smith may look for a bigger fight at Anfield because I don't think the Eubank fight sells significantly. I don't. There may be another bit of bad blood in the press conference, but it's not going to sell for Anfield. If Liam Smith has got his eye on selling out Anfield, Chris Eubank Jr. is not the one for that. So that's why I'm a bit skeptical it happens. Yeah, Davey says, I agree. Junior is a proud man. I think he'll take it as well. Liam Smith was never going to let him recover. He's a good finisher. Yeah, Liam Smith's an excellent finisher. Davey, I agree with that. I know you're a big fan of Liam Smith as well. I just think that, I might be wrong. Yourself, Joel, and everyone else who's watching. I think Liam Smith's the best inside fighter in British boxing. On the inside, when he gets you on the inside, I think he's absolutely class. But I might be wrong. That's my opinion. Joel says, I think pride and money will make Eubank take the fight. Of course, I agree. You've got to think of it from a financial point of view for Eubank. After that defeat, it's his third defeat. What's left for him? There's no big obvious fight there for him, is there? At middleweight, even if he goes up to super middleweight, there's nothing obvious there for him at all. So financially, this is the biggest fight out there. You can talk about Conor Benn all you like, but we don't know what the situation is with Conor Benn. You can talk about Billy Joe Saunders too, but Billy Joe Saunders will be coming off an awful long layoff and a really bad injury. I'm not too sure Billy Joe Saunders steps in the ring again. So I think from a financial point of view, Liam Smith fight is the biggest for him to take. So that's why I think he'll push for that fight. And Davey says he agrees. But guys, I just wanted to move on and just talk about the rest of the shows the Zone have got lined up very, very quickly. So you've got the Lee Wood and Maurizio Lara card, and we already knew that was happening. We knew about that last year. That's going to be happening in a fortnight's time. Um, on Saturday the 18th. That's going to be a very, very good fight. Don't ask me who I'm leaning towards on that one, because that's going to be a barnstormer. Then also in March you've got a show in Newcastle. Sorry, you've got Cyrus Patterson against Chris Jenkins. That's Chris Jenkins, a friend of the show. But Cyrus Patterson, a huge talent, comes out of Berkeley Amateur Boxing Club. I know of him as in terms of his ability coming from the same area. And I've been lucky enough to interview him in the past, and he's a tremendous talent, former GB boxer. You've got Pat McCormack on that show. Mark Dickinson's on that show as well. Callum French is on that show in a tough fight against Jordan Ellison. You've also got Solomon Dakers against Rob Ismay for the English heavyweight title. So that's a big card. And then also you've got the return of Callum Smith. Callum Smith's, looking to get that Batavia fight. So it's so far it's looking good. Got a couple of commentary I'm just going to quickly get through before I finish my point on that DAZN show in Liverpool. Okay, Davey, mate. Thanks for your input this evening. It's been terrific as always, and really insightful, pal. And I'll catch up with you soon. Joe says, I do like that fight. Lara is dangerous. Wood has the attrition, so it can go either way. I've got to agree with you, Joe. I've got to agree with you. I think Lee Wood has proven that. He reminds me, and I think I've said it before on the channel, there's some elements of Carl Froch seeing him, not just in his boxing style. I don't mean that. I mean, really, you can't rule him out until the final bell. Until the final bell's gone at the 12th round, you cannot rule him out. He's got that one punch equalizer. He's so fit. He's so durable. He's strong. You may think he's been down. He's losing a round. Maybe lose the next round. You think he goes and loses the fight. No, he can come back and haunt you. So if you're going to put him down, get him out of there, because he's going to come back and haunt you. So I like Lee Wood, and I like the fact that he was a boxer when he was at Brendan Ingle, and kind of Ben Davison's brought out the puncher in him, got him to sit down on his shots, got him hitting that much crisper and that much harder. Many people don't know this, but Lee Wood started out at light welterweight, and he slowly come down, and he just looks so much better at this weight, featherweight. He looks nice, strong, and I really hope he does it. He's 33 years old. Financially, I think he'd be, clearly be better off after payday with his win. But what I mean by that, guys, is the big fights away. I mean, this is a big fight, but the unification fights away. Should he get through Lara? Look at his CV then. He's got Kanju, Conlon, and then Lara, all with W's next to them. He will probably be the most feared fight. And now Navarrete moved up in that weight class. So I think he's got every chance of beating Lara. Lara looks a little bit flat-footed to me. He looks a little bit basic. He looks like a bit of a basic puncher. Don't get me wrong, he hits hard, and when he hits you, he stay hit. He's a swarmer. He'll come forward. He'll put a lot of come forward aggression, but it's not really smart aggression. And if Lee Wood is smart, he's smart behind his jab. He can pick holes in this guy. He's got more wrinkles in this game than Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington's a one-dimensional fighter. Yeah, Josh Warrington's a one-dimensional fighter. Lee Wood isn't. Lee Wood's got a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. He's got different strings to his bow. He's got different wrinkles to his game. Josh Warrington never had that. So when Josh Warrington was having the pressure put on him when he was on the back foot, Josh Warrington was only going to fight one way out of that. Lee Wood's a little bit more savvy. So I see Lee Wood having presenting different problems from him, Maurizio Lara. And I think his biggest problem would be if he gets caught early in a bit of a gunslinging battle. He may lose that one. But if he's smart, Lee Wood's got every chance of winning that one. So I think it's gonna be a good fight. Definitely edgy seat stuff. But like I said, this the zone schedule. It's decent. It's not as good in my opinion as what it was last year. But we've got some good fights on there. Um, we've got some. We've got that undisputed fight as well, guys. Let's not forget that we've got Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 2 over in Ireland. So that's quality in itself. Don't forget we've got the return of AJ as well. It's against Jermaine Franklin. People will be saying it's underwhelming, but AJ's on a rebuild job. Jermaine Franklin, he's one of those fighters where his stock's risen in defeat. I thought it was hard done by in that performance against Dillian White, another friend of the show. Guys were getting about. But look, he put on a good performance against Dillian White. I thought he could have nicked that on another day. He was unlucky. And he could give AJ some work, some serious work. So it's definitely not one to keep quiet. So there's some good fights on that schedule as well. We're going to get to some points now. Chris Welsh, Chris, how you doing, pal? Thank you very much for tuning in. Great to hear from you. Yes, Serrano Cruz. Yeah, that fight was lit, man. That fight was incredible. And Amanda Serrano just keeps bringing it. She just keeps entertaining, keeps delivering for the fans. Becomes undisputed in featherweight. And we just said earlier on this evening, I was just having a chat there and just talking about one of the big obstacles for me is going to be the weight against Katie Taylor. Skill wise, I think she matches Katie Taylor. Don't forget she's fresher. In terms of, I don't think she's taken as much punishment, although she's obviously lost more than Katie Taylor. She hasn't taken the punishment that Katie Taylor's taken. Age-wise, there's not much between them at all, but I definitely think Katie Taylor's shown more signs of slowing down, more signs of wear and tear, whether that's partly due to the fact that Katie Taylor's had an extensive amateur career. Katie Taylor has been probably the most active fighter at top level in recent times. I know Canelo's been active, but Katie Taylor's been very, very active. Very, very active. And Yas, he used to make a great point about sometimes it's not the fights, it's the camps that can take it out of you. That hard going on your joints, for 10, 12 weeks, having your fight, a couple of weeks rest, and then you're back in camp again. It's great for keeping our weight down, but in terms of all those, aches and pains and wears and tears on the body, it can't be good for her. And then you've got the fight itself. So that's my big thing for Katie Taylor. I hope for the fact that it's over in Ireland, I hope it's not that not that one fight too far for her. But we'll have to see. It's a fascinating matchup, whichever way you look at it. Chris has got another point as well. Big congratulations to Bumgarner and Serrano, both becoming undisputed, dominating performance from Bumgarner, who needed that performance after getting away with the Maya robbery. Yeah, I was just saying that, Chris, and that's a terrific point. I did feel as though Michaela Maya won that fight. And you know what, Chris? If those two were to fight again at lightweight, I would pick Michaela Maya. I think there was a couple of points in Baumgartner's performance where she switched off. Yes, she was taking a round off because she was so dominant in the rounds preceding that, but she was getting caught with right hands. Look, they didn't phase her, they didn't hurt her. But someone like Michaela Maya is skilled enough when she's catching you with that right hand. She's skilled enough just to circle you, just to take a couple of steps back, just to take the sting out of your punches and crucially win those rounds. You don't want to be giving someone like Michaela Maya momentum. You could get away with it When you're fighting the likes of Mekhaled, but you can't get away with it when you're fighting the likes of Michaela Mia. Michaela Mia is way too skilled, and I thought she was really, really unlucky. There's a couple of points there as well where I thought Bone was getting a little bit greedy, and as a result of that, she was exhausted, and that's probably why she was taking the next round off just to recuperate. Against Michaela Mia, you can't do that. You can't do that. So I really hope that fight gets made. Michaela Mia, in Alicia Bungana financially, I can't think of a bigger fight for those two. So I hope they're getting on. Chris comes with another point. Got the Taylor versus Serrano match we want to see. Can't wait for that. Yeah, I've just been singing its praises, Chris. I think it's a terrific matchup. How do you think the second fight goes, Chris? Who do you think wins and why? Chris says, have you spoke about Navarrete v Liam Wilson? Wilson should be proud of his performance. Navarrete dodged a big bullet. Yeah, mate. Yeah. I did. You know what it was? I thought Liam Wilson was unlucky. That knockdown, when he knocked down Navarrete. Navarrete got the, you talk, some American fans talk about it with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. And it's a bit like, I hate bringing football into it, but years ago, as a Newcastle fan growing up, Man United used to win everything, and there used to be a thing called Fergie time, where it used to be a running joke where Man United would always get a bit more extra time added on top of extra time, particularly at Old Trafford. They would get penalties at Old Trafford, so on and so forth, and it's a bit like that in boxing with champions. I'm from that school of thought, and I'm from the idea that if you're just nicking rounds, it's not good enough. If you're the away fighter, you've got to rip it from the champion. And my point is, Liam Wilson was on the wrong end of one of those decisions, because when you look at and when you count how long Navarrete was on the floor when he got up and when he spat his gum shield out, for me, that should have been a TKO Liam Wilson. TKO Liam Wilson. Yeah, Navarrete got himself back into it and he won. But I learned more about Liam Wilson than I learned a lot about Navarrete, but Liam Wilson impressed me. I learned a lot about him. I thought he did really well. I mean, you got to remember he only had 12 fights going into that fight. I know he had lost once, but he'd avenged that. And he's never really been out of Australia, has he? He's never been out of Australia. I thought he performed well. He's a big old lump. I think he's about 5'9". He looked a good fighter, and I think that's a problem. People think, oh, he's from Australia, he's going to be a walkover. No, he's a good fighter, and he can come again. He can come again, definitely in that division. He's got nothing to be ashamed of. He can come again. Navarrete, on the other hand, I'm not too sure with him at super featherweight. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know what you think, Chris. I kind of think his best days were at featherweight. I mean, he's a free-weight world champion, having won the WBO belt at super featherweight, and super bantamweight. But for me, I mean, he only had 5 fights at featherweight from 2020 up until last year. So yes, I don't think it's impossible for him to get back down there. I don't know. He just looked a little bit fleshy for me, a little bit cumbersome. I prefer him at featherweight. But Navarrete's not going to, we all know Shakur Stevenson's going to be moving up. So he's also dodged a bullet in that respect, because Shakur Stevenson's going to play with him. But I'm intrigued to see who's going to get that fight with Oscar Valdez, because that'll be a big fight for Mexico. Who do you guys think will win that fight? Valdez or Navarrete? Because I think that's going to be a pretty big fight. 2 guys that come forward. It's going to be an explosive fight. 21 seconds. I didn't like that, to be honest. Wilson unlucky. Great point, Chris. I may be wrong, Chris. You might think I'm talking nonsense, but I just think sometimes the champions are getting. Well, I know he wasn't a champion, but sometimes your home fighters or your more politically connected fighters, and in some cases, champions are getting the rub of the green in instances like that, where the referee's giving them a longer count, they're getting more time when they spit the gum shield out, they're not getting warnings, all those little tricks. And I just kind of think it's not fair. It's not fair, and that could have been a once in a lifetime opportunity for Liam Wilson. And it would have been a great upset, would have been a great surprise to some, and financially would have been magnificent for him. So it's things like that. But I wasn't blown away by Navarrete's performance, but I was impressed by Liam Wilson. Chris says, all depends on weight in Taylor versus Serrano rematch. So I'm on the fence. If depends on weight, then Taylor. But I think Serrano will be even better than first fight v Taylor. She's got even better. I agree, Chris. And look, if it's going to be at lightweight, what I was saying earlier at top of the show was that's 10 pounds heavier than what she fought last night. And that's not even considering the rehydration of the fighters. Katie Taylor, I mean, she could probably step into the ring on Saturday night at welterweight. I don't think Amanda Serrano is going to rehydrate that much. And I know at one point when Jake Paul was interviewed and he was asked about why they're not going for the Taylor fight immediately after the defeat of Katie Taylor, he mentioned something like they want to take a fight at her natural weight before they consider another fight with Katie Taylor. And that for me brought up 2 points. One, about confidence. She's really confident she would have went in for the rematch straight away. But also that psychologically the weight was playing on her mind. It is a big weight jump. It really is. That extra 10 pounds, anything can happen. And when you look at Katie Taylor's style as well, it's not as if Katie Taylor's a back foot boxer. She's not going to be engaged with any of the physical aspects of the sport. She is. She can come forward on the front foot. She's strong. She's aggressive. She can throw a lot of punches, and she's got a great chin. She's a physical girl. So that weight advantage is going to show. I know Amanda Serrano had a class 10th round, and she may get that success again, because even though they're near enough the same in age, Amanda Serrano doesn't physically look as though she's taken as much punishment and wear and tear as what Katie Taylor has. They do say that boxing is a young person's sport. And that doesn't always necessarily mean age. It just can mean who's got a fresher body in there, who's the fresher of the mind, and that could be Amanda Serrano in this fight. That's what makes it interesting, because technically, despite all the wins Amanda Serrano's had and all the belts she's picked up, the experience, in my opinion, lies with Katie Taylor, because she's faced the better opponents, so she's more experienced, and that will play a key, because it played a key in the last fight. So it'll be interesting. Navarrete versus Valdez, that's a fight I want to see. Yes, I think that'll be a cracking fight as well, Chris. Let me know who you think wins that fight. Chris says, if you spit gum shield out after 21 seconds, that's fight done for me in a TKO. Yeah, we've seen it too many times, Chris. Guys in the chat, we've seen it too many times. It's a way out of a fight for me. It's a way to buy out more time, and I don't like it. I don't like it, and I want referees to clamp down on it. I really do. It frustrates me. Fighters know what they're doing when they're doing that. It buys them more time, and it disrupts their opponent's rhythm. You may as well just chuck the towel in, because that's essentially what you're doing. I don't like it whatsoever. Joe says, I think Serrano for me. I think Taylor's starting to show signs of age. I would agree. In the sense that I do think Katie Taylor's starting to show signs of her age. And this may be one fight too far for Katie Taylor, so we'll have to see. Chris says, what are your thoughts on Richardson Hitchens? I'm a massive fan of him. I made bold statements. He's next coming to Floyd Mayweather. I'm still level-headed, not going to go too over the top, but he's so good in my opinion. Now, I watched his fight Richardson Hitchens. He was also fighting another unbeaten kid, the Puerto Rican kid, and I think he was 17 fights unbeaten with 7 stoppages, and he looked good. In terms of he had a great jab, nice and crisp. He couldn't miss with his right hand. His right hand was finding range all the time. He had a pretty good defense. He got himself out of range. He was going in and out of straight lines though. That was my thing. Um, if you've got that kind of style, I like to see a bit more lateral movement. I like to see a bit more footwork, using angles. He fights quite tall. Probably want to see him dip his knees, make himself a little bit smaller, vary his shots a little bit more, jab the head and body. But this kid's a problem. Richardson Hitchens is a problem, and that's a good win for him in terms of bring him on. Hopefully, we get him in title shots, because that was for the North American, the North American belt that they've got there, the equivalent like our European. Definitely knock on the doors for getting eliminated for a world title. I think there's something about him. There's something about him, and it's no, it's no surprise that he's been doing a lot of sparring with Shakur Stevenson, because he's got quite a similar style, using the jab, has that shitty tight defense, and finding range with his backhand. So it was a good performance against it. A good kid. Really good kid, and to be fair, I thought that fight should have been stopped. And I think at one point, so that you saw him turn around, and he kind of shrugged his shoulders at Eddie Hearn and Shakur Stevenson, kind of wondering what he's got to do to get that guy out of there. But it was a good performance. I like him. Chris says matches I want to see next: Taylor versus Serrano rematch, Bumgarner versus Mia rematch, and Navarrete versus Valdez. I'm all for those. Definitely. But since you mentioned Hitchens there, how about him against Gary Antoine Russell? That'd be a good fight as well. So yeah, there's plenty of fights, and you got to remember, guys, we're still in the first week of February, so we've got a long way to go. So hopefully these fights get made this year. I would edge towards Valdez on recent performances from Navarrete. Yeah, I think that's a good point. My only thing is, when you've got two people that are just going to mix it up on the inside, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But both of them are good fighters. I mean, you've got to remember, Shakur Stevenson took apart Oscar Valdez, but Shakur Stevenson will do that to a lot of people, and in time you will see that. So that's no shame at this moment in time. You would have done that to Navarrete. By all accounts, you would have done that to Navarrete. So I think that's just a fascinating matchup. And that's what I want, and that's what I want to see. Two fighters where they're struggling to pick who wins. You're struggling to pick, who's stronger in what department between them, and that's a sign of a good fight. That's a sign of a good matchup. So hopefully we get a lot more of those type of fights this year. We'll be happy. I'm staying level-headed on the likes of Azim, Dalton Smith, Hitchens. List goes on. Fair caution, Chris. Fair caution, because Adam Azim looks explosive. He looks good. But what I like to do is look at the caliber of opponents he's facing. Yeah, we used to have Jack Hughes on the channel, and Jack Hughes was a master of knowing who's who in the small hall shows, and he was telling us that the opponents that Adam Azim's put away have been really durable kids. People haven't done that to those kids before, and I get that. But for me, Adam Azim hasn't been hit yet. He hasn't been tested. People haven't asked questions of him. So for me, he's still untested. So that's why I agree. I've got to put him in that list where potentially he's ticking boxes, but there's still a few that remain unchecked for me. Same with Dalton Smith. He had a good sort of like he had a good sort of battle last time out, Dalton Smith. But we kind of need to see more of that before we kind of jump onto where we think he's going to end up. And that's why I've always said on this channel, and I still will always say, I always give prospects up to 10 fights before I actually nail down where I think they're going to end up and how well or how highly I rate them. Hitchens, yeah. I mean, with Hitchens, he's had a few more. I think he's had now 16 fights. So that's why I'm thinking, but in the States, the way it's so densely populated in terms of boxers, you can kind of be ready for a world title at around 16 fights, depending on what weight class you're in. But there are some good fighters in his weight division, Hitchens. So I mean, he's beaten an unbeaten kid, but when you look back at it, that kid was never really troubling Hitchens. He never really gave him any work. I never really gave him any rounds. Hitchens won for me every single round. So, and it was a 10 rounder as well, wasn't it? So yeah, I agree with you there, Chris. We've got to approach these guys with caution. Montana Love, I want to see next for Hitchens, and then Hitchens works his way up to pro way. Montana Love, that's a good shout. That's a good shout. That'd be a good name for him. Pretty much easy enough to make. He's with Matchroom. Prograis would be a good fight for him to work his way up to. I think Prograis streets ahead of him at this moment in time, and I think you're conceding that as well. But Montana Love equally not as tested. I would have said Gary Antoine Russell, but I would take Montana Love. Fair enough, I would take that one. That's a really good shout. Chris says again, I expect Navarrete to perform better against better opponents with respect to Wilson. Fair enough. I mean, you can't really argue with Navarrete's resume so far. 3-weight world champion. He's beaten some good kids. He's beaten Isaac Dogbe twice. So he's beaten the likes of Joe Gonzalez, Ruben Villa. So he's beaten some really, really good kids. But I just think that Liam, like I said, with that third round knockdown, I thought Liam Wilson was unlucky. But Liam Wilson's a better fighter than what people gave him credit for when this fight was announced. And I also think if you get in trouble like that of Liam Wilson, it doesn't kind of bode well when you look at who else is in that weight division as well. You never know; it could be like an Usyk moment. I mean, Usyk didn't look great against Derek Chisora. He didn't look great against Chaz Witherspoon, but then he looked terrific against Anthony Joshua in both fights. So it could be like that. Chris says Santo Reyes will be his toughest fight so far. He's a powerhouse opponent for Azim, but still expect Azim to win. Yes, so do I. I still expect Azim to come through that fight. But yeah, hopefully he asks questions of Adam Azim. What we don't want is Adam Azim to stormroll and steam through another opponent because then that hype would magnify and intensify, and then you get all those unrealistic matchups. Kind of people saying he's ready for the British title now. He's ready for the common. He's ready for the European world titles at the end of the year and all that talk. And it's just, I just think you need to slow down with the kid. I just think you need to slow down with him. And this point from Chris. Final one before I finish up here. I'm looking forward to Azim card this weekend. All intriguing fights. Dubois stepping up against experienced opponent. Yeah, well, that's what you want to see. That's definitely what you want to see. Caroline Dubois is somebody, particularly Josh, raves on about. Absolutely raves on about. I think she's tremendous talent. I've been really, really impressed with her. I've been really impressed with her shot selection, her confidence in the ring, how explosive she's been. And yeah, I think basically she is the next star in women's boxing. particularly in the UK. I think she's going to draw a lot of casual fans, to the sport. Uh, I think when you look at what she's achieved so far, the backing that she's got from Sky, I think she's got it all. She really has, and she's becoming more articulate and more confident off camera as well, which is always my worry for Caroline Dubois. She's a bit like her brother, a little bit shy. I thought she was going to end up like Savannah Marshall, but no, she's really bright, really bubbly, and she's in a very good gym as well. Don't forget Shane McGuigan. She's got a very good gym, very good stable there. But you're right there as well. It is a packed card. There's lots of talent on this card. I'm gonna talk you through some of the fights. You've got another friend of the show, Jordan Reynolds, making his fifth appearance in the pro scene. You've got Vidal Riley. He's fighting a guy called Anish Taj. Tyler Denny against Brad Pauls for the English middleweight title. And you've got Zach Chelly against Anthony Sims Jr. In my opinion, that could be fighting the night. I thought Anthony Sims Jr. was hard done by when Eddie Hearn got rid of him. I think Anthony Sims Jr. is a good talent. I think he's skillful. He's a good kid. A lot of people are sleeping on Anthony Sims, and he stepped up at light heavyweight. He's got himself down to super middleweight. I think he could beat Zach Chelly. I really do. Zach Chelly presses forward, comes forward. I think Sims could box his ears off. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. I'm really looking forward to seeing Anthony Sims Jr. back in the UK. I think this guy is someone to keep an eye out of. I think he's a real good talent. Chris says it's a tough fight for Dubois, in my opinion, but I expected to edge it on points. Yeah, so do I. I believe in Caroline Dubois. I think she's a real talent. And Chris says finally, Dubois needs to start quickly versus Abiyanna with Abiyanna's experience. Yeah, but you know what? I think she will. I think she will. I think she's an eager beaver. She's got that about her. That's what I like about Caroline Dubois. She's becoming more spiteful. And he's seeing it in her shots. And I think if she knows she can hurt you or she gets you hurt, she'll not take her. She'll not slow down, and that's what I like about her. Chris says Chile versus Sims and Dubois versus Abiyanna matches of the night for me. Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to disagree with you there, Chris. I will go for Chile versus Sims. I think they're very equally matched. I would go for that because I think a lot of people are underestimating Anthony Sims in this fight. So that's what I would go for. But guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for everybody in the comments. Chris, Joel, Davey, thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much for watching. There'll be plenty more content to come. We've got a massive card this weekend and also next weekend as well. So there's plenty more content coming up. Guys, if there's anything as well that you guys want us to cover or you want some additional content, let myself know, let Yas know, let Josh know in the comment section. We're more than happy to try new things out. And if there's anything else that you want us to do different on the lives, let us know. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. You guys stay safe, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care, guys.